Green Bay tilt and saying, whoa, we can actually sell this bad boy out. We can get some revenue with some travelers, some snowbirds. Hopefully that game gets played in December, they're thinking, and trying economically to make it benefit the city, because it usually does when the Packers come to town. For this one, I mean, if you really want to start it up. Now, I like the idea, and Drew Olson has kind of hatched this idea, and this year it laid out. Packers start week 1 against the Bears, finish week 18 against the Bears. That's the first game of the NFL season and the last game of the NFL season.
Make that like an annual,
an annual fest. I thought when they brought the Packers over to London, you really want to give your international team or your international fan base what the core of the NFL is. You give it one of, if not the most pillar rivalry in the sport. You showcase that for them. This one would be 2 of the premier franchises, Philadelphia Eagles. You mentioned the upstart part about the Packers, and we're going to get into Jordan Love being part of comps, Armin, in a little while here today. But I had just thought about it for the marketing side of it. From the football side of it, does make a whole lot of sense. Now, they could bring in a Dallas Cowboys. They could do something else. But this isn't going to be your Jags Titans London start, right? Like, I assume, John, they're going to put a big time game there on that first Friday of the opening weekend for the NFL. They're not going to give you a cupcake for that one.
Well, you got to figure the Thursday night game. Look at the Thursday night game this past year. Lions, Chiefs, 2 teams that were in AFC, NFC championship games. That was a big time game. They're not going to want to follow that up with a Jags Titans game. They're not going to want to do it. They won't do it. It's going to be the Eagles. We found that out yesterday. And now you start looking at who's going to play Philadelphia in Philadelphia this year. And the NFC has 9 home games. I don't have their schedule in front of me. I don't know who they're going to play at home, but I know one team. I know one team is the Green Bay Packers, and that is a big time game. Then you're not forced with we don't want to do a division game somewhere on neutral field because that's uneven, one team. So you eliminate 3 games that way. So there's only 6 possibilities that's going to be that Friday night game. You mean to tell me the Packers aren't the best option out of those 6 options?
Well, when you have a worldwide,
I don't know
base,
what they are.
I mean,
I don't have the Philadelphia Eagles schedule for next year up in front of me. In fact, nobody does, but you might know their opponents. Packers have to be the best out of those 6 teams.
Would you rather watch Eagles and Browns?
No.
Would you rather watch Eagles and Falcons?
No.
How about Eagles and Panthers?
No.
I mean, you're going to tell me Eagles and Jags doesn't tickle everyone's fancies? The only other option would be Steelers. And Eagles.
No,
you can't take that game out of Pennsylvania.
No, you want that game in PA. You need to have that game in PA. So you mean to tell me those are the 5 teams that are non-conference, or non-divisional, other than the Green Bay? It's a lock.
So we're going to Rio.
It's a lock. I'm going to Rio, baby, and I don't want it on a Friday. I'm going all day. Get my banana hammock ready, baby. Here we go. I was going to say, this would be one to make sure. I think it's 3 hours. It's 12:11 p.m. on Tuesday right now. 3 hours. So I did do that right. So okay, let me just make sure. It's 3 hours. So there you go. You can see the Christ Gamer statue out there. That's the big Jesus. Think about this. They want to play that Friday night. They want to start that probably at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock.
Something like that. That would make sense. Yep.
That means it would be a 9 o'clock start down there. Oh, you better get there and get acclimated.
Because I was trying to think about it, like if indeed they were going to do this, because the NFL doesn't do anything unintentionally, right? Like when they debut the Black Friday game, that thing is here to stay. They mentioned last year, we're not going to play games on Christmas Day if it's Tuesday or Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you better believe we're putting 3 games on there, and we're going to pillage that from the NBA. John, they do this here. I think this thing's here to stay. Like, I mean, it would have to, in my estimation, it would probably have to be a pretty categoric flop, which I doubt it's going to be, for them to not try to put this every single year on that Friday.
I get it. You want to capitalize on your opening weekend, right? College football does their opening weekend, and it kind of runs almost a full week of football.
Almost a full week, yeah.
I mean, they start Wednesday, I think. They'll start hitting some small time games on Wednesday, bigger game on Thursday, run that all the way through Monday night. They do almost a full week. Their opening weekend, NFL opening weekend, could do the same. The Thursday night game's fantastic. This Friday night game, I'll wait and hold my reservation on that until after it gets played, because I like having a night on a weekend that's not completely engulfed with football.
Me too.
And I like being able to stop by a local high, especially early in the year when high school football in Wisconsin isn't cold and rainy and just miserable. I like doing that. So we'll see how this thing plays, but I get it. Well, then college football's Saturday, then Sunday and Monday. So we'll see how this plays out, but it sounds like it's going to be the Green Bay Packers.
Well, a couple of things. When they open Pandora's box in the NFL, I feel like for something like this, I don't feel like they stop. When they first started doing Thursday games, when they first started doing, Monday nights,
it's a trial run.
Yeah, I just feel like they don't stop. I think one day NFL is going to want every night of our week. It's as crazy as it sounds now. They want to own our lives. Now, that's fine. I love the NFL.
They can own mine.
And I know you do too, Billy. And I'm glad you said it, John, because nobody wants NFL football more than John and Billy here. No, you guys. But I'm glad you said it, because even if you even don't want a Friday night game, then I know a lot of people don't want it. And for me personally, I love the NFL, but I don't need every night to have a game. I just don't. I don't need to have that, okay, every night. I can have one night where there's not football, or two nights where there's not NFL football.
Listen, Black Friday is one thing, because I'm not out beating the streets trying to pump all the
I already got my
gifts.
deals. Yeah, I'm rapping.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pump all the gifts
That's
out of all
different.
the stores. But a Friday early in the football season, you might be looking forward to a dinner out with the family. You might be looking for all kinds of things, nice weather.
Anything else, right.
You might still be doing some things outside. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't love the idea of an early season Friday game, but opening weekend, big time teams playing, early season hype could change the way I feel about it. If you did, I'm telling you, if you put Titans Colts on, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, this might be a little different.
Right.
You put Browns Cardinals. I'm not watching it. I'm not doing it. You got to have a premier matchup. And that's why I think the Eagles were chosen, the team that was just in the Super Bowl last year, a little bit of a down year this year, still made the playoffs. Now who's their best opponent? Who's the best one you can pick? It's got to be the Green Bay Packers.
I think so too. And I think, they're putting this on Friday. They're going to start the season. You don't think they're going to try and do this now every year if it works? And it's going to work.
Oh, it's going to work.
NFL. And I just feel like it's another Pandora's box. It's opening, and here it is. So just get ready for it. But
I'm still surprised they have not yet, and I still believe they will. You guys don't like this. I think we're going to be playing NFL games on Labor Day weekend here in the not too distant future.
I wouldn't say you're wrong. I would not.
This is pretty dang close. 4 or 5 days. But a trip to Brazil would be a little easier for us if it was Memorial Day weekend, because then we could live it up. Vamos Packers over there for Saturday, Sunday, fly back Monday, and it's all good in the neighborhood. We're back here on the air on Tuesday. A little alignment here that could help on out. Just very interesting. They don't put the toothpaste back in the tube very often.
Really, they don't. And that's just the way it is. Really quick. I always go to PackersEverywhere.com to find the Packer bars, wherever the Packers travel, just out of curiosity. It's the first time I've ever searched Brazil for Packers bars, and I don't think there are any there yet. But I will tell you this: if there is a game in Rio, the Packer bar will exist somewhere. Packers fans will be there, and they will congregate at some point in Brazil.
Tell you, when we were in London, on one of the days of the week, it was like a Thursday or a Friday, we were walking around South London, just by the London Bridge, and we were kind of walking around the food district. Got some lunch, and it was me, my wife, a couple couples that were with us, and I saw Aaron Nagler, about 70 yards ahead of us. And I just laughed. I was like, everybody was here. That London game, everybody was there. and I saw Nagler, and he walked into a bar. I watched him walk into a bar. This is about 50 yards ahead of us, okay? And when he walks in, I heard the bar erupt. Nagler's here! Nagler's here! The bar erupted, and we go walking past. And as I walked past this bar, it was one of those bars, Armin. It was one of those Packer bars. And it was days before the game still. It was still a day or two before the game. And it was erupted. And you'd have thought the Beatles walked in this place when it was Aaron Nagler.
Well,
that's how big the international games are.
Well, he's the Pied Piper of out-of-town Packer fans.
Oh, yeah. Cheesehead TV
no doubt
is
about
the
it.
international home for Packers fans. That's for sure. And if this does include the Green Bay Packers, you better believe Cheesehead TV is going to find their way on over there.
They're going to be in Brazil. They're going to be
doing a week worth of shows.
Enjoying the beach on Rio.
We might just, crash their party.
Rio.
We travel leaders on this?
Let's just do it now. Why not?
Zaben, give us the hookup. We dial that on in. Couple little pieces of information, which I enjoy from our talk and text line. Chad and Merrill. Rio doesn't observe daylight savings time, so it'll only be a 2-hour difference in September.
Come on, Armin. You didn't figure that out?
I did not.
Dude, seriously?
I didn't have that figured out. I apologize. So I just looked up the current time in Brazil. So, all right, 2 hours then, no problem. Listen, it's going to be an amazing time on the beaches of Rio with John, with Billy, with Nagler. I won't be there, but it's going to be, you guys are going to have a great
Somebody's
time.
got to produce.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not going to be there?
There's no way I'm going to Rio. Are you kidding me? I can't do it.
You're going to Mexico.
Well,
you're going to Sunburn Bowl.
That's a different situation. There's no Packer game.
Tyson in Zillow, Washington. I don't disagree with you guys very often, but I'm down for football more days of the week. Not just maybe not on Friday. Drunk Paul said, listen, if your kid's not playing high school football, nobody gives a crap about high school football. I'd beg to differ.
Oh, come on.
That's
wrong.
Also,
Yeah, but here
closer to the heart.
But this is why I don't necessarily want a game on Friday. Because I want one day a week where I can do something.
Exactly. Do something
I just want
else.
one day a week where I can do something else. Because listen, I love football on Mondays. I actually grown to love football on Tuesdays, these games that get bumped. I do.
Action's awesome on Tuesday.
Give me football on Tuesdays. I'm talking NFL. We've had a couple NFL games on Tuesdays in the last few years. I like that on Tuesdays. I love Sundays. Saturdays are college football. I just want one night where I can do something else and have it be enjoyable because there's not necessarily work the next day. And that's the best part. Give me football every night that I have to work the next day because I'll sit there and I'll watch the game and I'll enjoy it and I'll love it.
I agree. Let's take a breath and take a walk and do something else one night. And I love the NFL. I do. I mean, but if you say it, then I don't feel bad, John, because it's like, we can read a book or something.
Read a book.
Now, here you go.
What?
I named in the 920. Fellas, my wife is Brazilian, so I am familiar with the game. Once daylight savings time hits, the time change will go from 3 hours to 1 hour. It's only 1 hour difference. Because he said they flipped their clocks down there in the opposite direction. That's Josh in the 920.
I can't follow all this. 2 hours difference? All right, I'm just going to wait.
Their daylight savings goes opposite because their summer is their winter and their winter is their summer. So they flip the opposite direction.
Wow. I feel like Galifianakis in that GIF, where all the numbers are
flying through as you're going down the escalator at Pato, dialing them on in.
Yeah, that's right. That is exactly what it is. Well, all right. If it happens, I'm excited and boy, have a good time.
I like this one from Derek. Now Friday night becomes another night to get yelled at by your wife for not paying attention to her and watching football. That's what we need. That's what we want.
That's what we want. And when you guys go there, bring a volleyball. The beaches of Rio have the best sand composition in the world for sand volleyball. And they play they kick it over the net. They play with their feet.
Now I'm going to try to find one if we go, but I don't believe Sao Paulo. I might be mispronouncing that name. I believe that's like a metropolitan city.
Okay, so I'm thinking of Rio. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty metropolitan city that we're going to be embarking on.
So I'm mixing up my cities in Rio.
We're getting ourselves on in there though. We're going to get ourselves on over to Brazil. We're going to get ourselves down for the international game. Are you coming? 414-799-1973. Maybe your seat decision from yesterday will be exactly your seating arrangement of what you prefer for the flight down to Brazil. We don't need to rinse and repeat that situation, but we do got to finish up and tie up our poll question from yesterday. San Francisco 49ers not liking the field situation. Not at Allegiant Stadium. We'll discuss it coming on up here. And Brock Purdy is going to do it. That son of a gun is going to do it. Tell you exactly what next with Kuhn, Billy, and Armin. It's 9 to noon on the game.
When she shines, she really shows you all she
I love our nooners so much on this text line because instantly, as we're talking about, again, we're just a little health and safety reminder. We are not reporting or telling you for certain the Packers are playing the Eagles on Friday, September 6th.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
We have a pretty good idea that they are going to be selected as the opponent for the international game that was announced yesterday by Roger Goodell.
We're speculating, but we think, yeah, it's a good chance.
This
right?
speculation has kind of turned to an assumption, right? Is that fair, Armin? Are those two different things?
I think we are at that point. I mean, I did play the salsa samba music
a couple
here
of different times.
Now, the thing is,
feeling it.
You never know. They could just make a decision and say, or there might be things at play that we don't know about, right, John? Like say, you know what, we're not. We're putting the Browns there against the Eagles. It could happen.
But a couple of nooners are bringing up a good point to us. John in the 414 and Dustin and Brookfield have both mentioned it this way, that it would have to potentially be an early afternoon start on that Friday due to the Broadcasting Act of 1961.
Oh, my gosh.
That, remember, was why the Black Friday game was played at 2 and not 5, like many people were asking for it to be.
Okay. I mean, yeah, okay. I didn't study the Broadcasting Act of 1961.
The Broadcasting Act of 1961. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Armin.
Okay.
It does say that professional competition, NFL competition, has to cease on Friday nights.
Yes.
And give way to high school football.
Here
is a part of the way that it's framed.
The way it's written, if a high school or college football game is being played within 75 miles of the broadcasting station on a Friday and Saturdays from the second Friday in September until the second Saturday. So it's a mileage or is it time? I'm trying to figure this out here.
So this is how they get away with it. In another country, they can do it.
Well, see, because it says the broadcasting station. Now, the broadcasting station would be, if this game gets thrown over on Channel 6 here in Milwaukee, that would be like 5 minutes from Brown Deer High School. But it's a fascinating little spot that they've obviously said, Congress, we're going to have a conversation with you. We'll figure it out here.
It's amazing that happened.
We'll line it on.
It's amazing that happened in 61 before the NFL was really that popular yet. But they deemed it a antitrust law violation. It's pretty interesting. But we'll see if there's an exception. Let's see here.
They might be able to make one. They also have many people on our talking text line. Tyson in Zillow, Washington is looking up the rules for daylight savings. He says they don't change their clocks anymore. We had our nooner text on in unnamed in the 920, or Josh said, fellas, my wife's Brazilian. I know what the clock change is. It goes from 3 hours to 1 hour. Flips completely different. So we got people fighting about the time change for a Packers game that potentially is not going to happen. That is what I love about NFL fans and about Packers fans.
That's exactly.
We're just trying to make sure, just trying to line it on up.
Well,
7 months from now, we got to put it on the calendar.
In cozy. It's got to go in cozy. Our wife needs to know we're dedicated for this Friday night game. Don't make any plans for me that weekend. Father-daughter camp at Camp Unilaya has to be a different weekend. Can't be opening weekend. Has to be potentially the next weekend. We'll make that work. But it's got to go in cozy, Billy. We got to figure out the time. We got to know the location. We got to get this all locked into our digital calendar.
What Cozy's the shared calendar app for anyone that doesn't know, I believe, right?
Dude, I'm just I had no idea, and now I'm looking it on up. But this is pretty damn intense.
How is a person that's married doesn't have Cozy yet? I tell you, it's going to make your life a lot better, a lot easier.
Did you know it's a 3-time Mom's Choice Award winner and the Today Show must-have app for a better life? How about that? 3-time winner, 3-time champ.
So if I get this app,
you're out of jail free.
But the bad thing is
that app is your out of jail free card, because then your wife well, I didn't know about this.
It's in cozy. It's in cozy.
It's in cozy. You can put grocery lists in there.
Let me say it's in cozy.
Can they track you on Cozy? Is it one of those tracking apps too, John?
Why are you nervous about
just
that?
Out of curiosity. I'm just asking for a friend.
It basically is saying where you're at. So yeah, it's tracking you. It's telling your wife exactly where you're at because you put it in the app where you're going to be.
I already have we have the Life 360 app where it'll track anywhere you want in your family, tell you where they are in case something bad happens.
That's fine, Armin. In
stop
case
watching
you get
Dateline.
In case you get kidnapped.
That's it.
You're worried about getting kidnapped.
Well,
I was going to say, you guys watching too many.
Too much Dateline, 2020, Crime Watch
is
Daily.
Is there a rash of Romanian kidnappings going on right now? Like, what's the deal?
If you ask my wife, she thinks everyone's getting kidnapped all the time because we're always watching stuff about Dateline and stuff like that. Now, Billy, it's my own fault. You know, I put Chris Hansen stuff.
I was
going to
say you started probably with To Catch a Predator in the algorithm.
Oh man, but what if something happens? I need to know where you're at.
So you share your locations?
I don't like doing it, but listen, it is.
Why don't you like doing it?
It's a weird feeling.
You got something to hide, don't you?
No, I don't have anything to hide. All right, I'm not doing anything weird. It's just a weird feeling to know I can be tracked at all times.
I'm kind of with Armin on this.
Just a weird feeling.
Well,
Laura didn't push for it. She didn't push for it either.
This is what
you asked her to.
No, she just like
you pushed for it.
What it was if you really want to know, the sister-in-law said, "Look, there's this cool app we can use. All track each other if once we're on a trip." You know,
also it's the sister-in-law that's interesting.
She said we should all sign up for it, and she's
the one to watch out for.
She's the one that said sign up. I'm like, I don't really want to do this. Laura never asked me to sign up for it, but it was like, well, we're going on a trip. We should all sign up for it so we know all where we are or wherever it was, so everyone knows where everybody is when there's a time where we need to be. Are you going to be here at this time or where's somebody or whatever?
The thing about Cozy Billy is simply this, though.
I don't like it.
You always have, some sort of deniability or reliability in the fact that you can always turn to her and say, it's in Cozy.
Yeah, that's good.
Wait, you can't do this tonight because you have a basketball game? Yes, it's in Cozy. Now, I'm going to warn you. She can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to have to, and this is the whole thing, you're going to have to start keeping up on this calendar, because if it's like, hey, we have this, christening for Susie's daughter down here on Sunday.
I can't go.
You got to be there.
What?
I can't go about that.
It's in Cozy, but you got to be careful. You got to watch your stuff.
I'm teeing up at 9:30 at Curry.
You thought you were
Cozy. That's not in Cozy. This is in Cozy.
Oh, son of a!
So you got to figure out how to use it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to scout it on out, because right now, one of the reasons why I'm actually holding out on Cozy after just reading this for the last 5 minutes. I've been introduced to it live on the radio and I'm becoming a fan. I'm also a little bit nervous because it's taking away one of my easiest Christmas gifts to buy, which is the yearly calendar, the yearly planner. Say, hey man, this is going to be the way that everything gets lined down up. Merry Christmas.
That's a free one we get from Melody.
Well, you could just pay the premium.
I'd buy a better one than that.
Billy, better idea. You could just pay for the premium subscription annually there for Christmas every year. Look,
what could the Cozy paywall possibly be giving you that's not on the regular, John, the subscription?
A decent amount.
Yeah, maybe you're right about that. My other question is really quick on that is who has the jurisdiction? Like, is it just time? Like, can you put something first on Cozy and say, I'm free, I don't have to go, I had my thing on there first, John? Or can it be overridden? I'm assuming it can be overridden by a more important event. Like, what if you have a tea time on Cozy?
It's what spurs the conversation. I put tea times on Cozy.
Right, but what if it's on there?
Can't be questioned.
Right. So can you put a tea time 8 months in advance? Can you reserve every weekend now?
That's how you book the golf trips.
Yes. I have tea times booked
it's good strategy.
I have tea times booked out for the rest of the year already.
I love that.
They're not set yet. They're not with the golf course yet. But they're in my phone. They're on Cozy. Lindsay knows. Lindsay knows. Well, okay. Let me check. July 24th.
Son of a
damn. He's got a tea time that day, and that's where the hey, do you need the golf this day? Well, what do you have? What this? Yes, I need the golf that day.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, big league day. Martin in Germantown. Life 360 is awesome. I'm with you, Armin. I've got my wife and both kiddos on there. I know where they are 24/7. It's to make sure that they are safe, not to spy on them.
I get that. I mean,
only a little to spy on them.
I believe most people have it for that reason to start, but it is also like,
I got one buddy who not a fan of the locations.
No, you don't want to. I mean, it's
not a fan of the location settings. Oh, so you're out having lunch at the bar, so I don't have to plan on you for dinner. Well, son of a, I guess not. Yep, I guess not. I might as well have 2 or 3 more. Get himself into trouble before you even get on home.
But that's where it goes too far. But if anybody wants to know, if you have battery saver on, it's hard. You can't really be tracked.
I like Mailman too bad, Chad. Being tracked by your wife sucks, because then they know that I'm trying to go surprise her or get her a gift that she could track you when you're on your way home, and realize that you're out probably getting her something and that it's not as big of a surprise anymore. That's why you're nervous about it. That's why you're nervous about it, Chad. Okay. Gotcha.
That excuse doesn't always work, by the way. Hey, Armin, what were you doing on Canal Street at 3:30? I was shopping for your birthday.
Shopping for a gift. What, at the old Cargill factory?
Yeah. Hey, getting some Rock and Brews gift cards, honey.
Yeah, it's okay. Just
Yeah.
getting some Cream City coffee gift cards. It'll work out. 414-799-1973. That's the phone number to get in on the talking text line. We got to get into what happened last night on opening night for Super Bowl 58. That little guy from San Francisco is going to do it. I listening last night. I can already feel it. And Mike Vrabel. Ooh, a little nervous. People getting a little scared around him. Diana Rossini with one of the funniest reports and quotes that may have ever hit the head coaching cycle in the NFL. We'll bring it to you 9 to noon. Rolls on next on The Game.
With my sis, 'cause she comfortable.
Can you bounce with me? Bounce with me.
That was Michael Robinson interviewing the star, let's be honest, of Super Bowl opening night last night, Jeremiah Fennell. Wow. If I can talk.
Fennell?
Yeah, Fennell. Either
Like
way,
isn't that a spice? Fennel
my
seed?
man just took over last night. 11-year-old interviewer who was first kind of made famous when he interviewed Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And Adams was like, oh, damn. Okay. All right. This is a real interview. Okay. What's up, man? Hold on. Let me answer these questions correctly. And he was up on stage with just about every single guy that you could imagine, had a fantastic interaction with George Kittle, and Kittle had a lot of fun with it. Mahomes and everybody was on up there. But damn, John, Super Bowl opening night / what media day used to be completely revamped. I mean, they had Bruce Buffer introducing the Kansas City Chiefs, the reigning, defending. I mean, unless it was Paul Heyman firing everybody on up there, nothing was going to get you fired up more than that intro 6 days away from the game. It is a hell of an event to have a main stage interview for the people inside, the 2 hours of podium. That's a real spectacle that they have sure unearthed there with Super Bowl opening night last night.
And the NFL loves it because it's everything that goes from the AFC NFC championship game through the Pro Bowl games through this is their week plus long of marketing for their big game. It's how do we market our product for free without having to even play the games? How can we get it in the news? How can we make it entertaining? How can we make people watch and listen? Let's throw in this 11-year-old that can get, spicy with the questions on these interviews and get people to turn sideways and, this a little kid asking these questions. And it's that advertising moment for the NFL. The players can't wait to get finished with these so they can get back to business and they can stop the circus, dog and pony show that is that week and a half before you actually start getting ready for the games. Now, it doesn't completely go back to normal. You still have practices. You still have excessive media availability, even today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday for these teams, for these players before things actually calm down and get like super back to normal for Saturday walkthrough and then Sunday on game day. And to a big extent, how you handle these distractions, how you handled this week goes a long way into, how you can start this football game. And I believe it to be, true. I can imagine the players really like having this on Monday, getting this out of the way Monday night. Tuesday, we had them both on Tuesdays, and it was a little bit of a burden, right? You would get into the city on Monday, you would kind of have like a Monday night to relax and hang out with the guys. And it's different than most away trips, because most away trips you go in the night before the game, you get like a dinner, but you got to stay low key. You're playing the next day, everybody's serious. When you go in on a Monday night, you get a chance to go out and enjoy the city a little bit. And maybe you don't have a curfew. Maybe you have an extra late curfew at 1:00 in the morning or something like that, like we did down in Dallas. And you get to really hang out as a team and do some fun things in that city, whatever it might be. Monday night here, and then you would wake up in the morning on Tuesday and be like, damn, I got to go do this.
I got to go do this
now. Okay. It's media day, opening night, whatever you want to call it, being on a Monday. And then the guys be able to shut it down and buy that extra day of just calming down and being them. That makes it a lot more enjoyable of a week for the players.
Well, and it's a perfect compromise in that angle, because as a football fan, I want to think about Super Bowl today, right? Like on a Monday,
Yeah.
I want to start thinking about the game coming up, and let's get right to it. Let's make it as big of a spectacle and as much of a fun event as you can. The other part of it is right now, I mean, you get a chance to see everybody on the team, and now everybody continues to be showcased. And I'm watching for the last 3 weeks. It's been clear that I was not a fan of Brock Purdy winning the MVP for the majority of the NFL season, but that son of a gun is going to make me like him. Like I'm listening to him last night, answer any and every question as politely and as nonchalantly as one of my favorite answers. He gets asked, John, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know all 14 guys that got taken in front of me, and I could tell you every single one of their names and what pick they went. He gets asked, you think about that? Does that bug you that there were how many different quarterbacks taken in front of you? No, not really. I'll be honest with you. I haven't really thought about it. Like everybody gets their own opportunity. I was meant to go somewhere, and God's got a plan for me that's different from everybody else. And, there's no reason in wasting my time thinking about that.
Right.
Okay. Great answer, kid. All right. Next one.
We love you. You're a great Sunday school teacher. Like it's great. Whatever it is, that type of guy.
He's the perfect kid. And to watch him in this moment over the last 2 weeks, has he played his best game in the 2 playoff games? No. Was he his best when they needed him the most? Yes. And as much as I am pulling on Kansas City's side, I like the dynasty. I want to see it be culminated, right? The 3 and 5 years. There's only 5 teams, I think, that have done that in the NFL in the Super Bowl era. I want to see that get completed, but dang it, this kid's going to make me like him. I really enjoyed it when I could just despise him, not think about it, Armin, and now I got to like him.
That's what I felt about Kirk Cousins, too, before I watched quarterback. Like, don't make me like a Viking. Here's a little piece of audio, what you're talking about here, Billy. What a guy. Man, I mean,
a completely different type of sound than what you heard with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Oh,
knows every single wide receiver drafted ahead of him, and he's keeping receipts on every single one.
Yeah.
Here, Brock Purdy's like, hey, I was drafted last in the draft. If they didn't pick me there, I was undrafted. I don't care. I'm in a Super Bowl. I'm not keeping track of the people in front of me. I mean, you could do it and motivate yourself in different ways, but it's if he had come out and if he had receipts, if he had checks on all those guys that were drafted ahead of him, Billy, would you still have a little hate for it? Or do you just love the way that he's handling?
I just love everything about it. Like, I just love how he's handling it. I like the fact, John, that, and this is the weird part about it. Generally, we cheer for the underdog story, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
We got beat over the head with pick 199 for Tom Brady that people started resenting him for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, all right, we've heard it enough. Him being Mr. Irrelevant, people are saying, all right, we've heard it enough. Think about how crazy that is. Mr. Irrelevant, and he's already playing in his, checks notes, what, 5th playoff game?
Yeah.
And it's not
Super
just
Bowl,
the fact that he's driving a Lamborghini and making sure that he doesn't scratch and dent it. And he's taken that thing on a couple of joy rides and whipped it around and gotten it right back into the spot in perfect condition.
And he had to come back twice. He had to come back twice in the 2 biggest playoff games and save his team from disappointing losses. Bottom line is he had to do it.
I just liked when I could make fun of him for his baby face and the fact that he looked like he was 12.
Let me tell you something. Let me ask you guys.
Getting his learner's permit next week. No, now I'm starting to like it.
We're going to break, so maybe there's more time for this later. But okay, you guys played football, so it's like the humility, the gratitude. They're great life skills. They're great life attitudes. I think everyone respects it. But do you think football people, locker room guys, might say, you know what? You're kind of soft. You don't have the edge. You really don't have the edge. You don't have the intensity. You don't have that like nastiness that we really need if you're saying stuff like that all the time. I'm so thankful and all that. I'm always curious about how people perceive guys like that in between the lines. So I don't know.
Well, Armin, what do you prefer more?
I love it,
but the guys that are talking trash about everybody drafted ahead of them and all the teams that passed on them, or are you more appreciative of the Brock Purdy's of the world that are like, well, I was 255. I was Mr. Irrelevant, but now I'm in a Super Bowl, so I'm kind of relevant.
I love guys having an edge and being motivated to it to a certain extent, as long as it's a healthy way to be motivated. But in the end, you want people in the world that are going to have gratitude, right, and humility. So in general, I like that. So I think the things that can make people great at football sometimes can be tough to adjust to if it's not like a football thing. So I find it interesting. I'm sure his teammates respect him, but
interesting.
I'm curious about that.
Interesting story at the Athletic, and we can talk about it coming up maybe a little bit tomorrow with our guy Matt Schneidman, as they had a comparison and an interview with one of John's former teammates, Drew Brees, of Brees seeing the similarities in him and Purdy. It's just an interesting, there's going to be a lot of different comparisons, a lot of different storylines to roll on through. That's what Super Bowl week is made for. All right, we take a quick timeout. Hour number 2, we find our happy place in hour number 2. 10 o'clock hour is always a happy time here on 9 to noon. And Trey Crosby joins us next, talks to Milwaukee Bucks as they finish up this Western Conference road trip and 2 days away from the NBA trade deadline. Are these the final 2 days of Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, others potentially a part of the Milwaukee Bucks? We'll discuss it next with Trey. It's 9 to noon on the Game.
La 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 la, wait till I get my money right. I had a dream I could buy my way to heaven. When I awoke, I spent that on a necklace.
Hour 2, 9 to noon, 10 o'clock hours where we find our green and gold happy place. So everybody relax. It is a happy place with Happy Place Hemp and happyplacehemp.com. Don't wait. Hop online to happyplacehemp.com right now and use the new promo code, Billy. Promo code Billy, Billy, gets you 25% off your entire order every time. That new promo code is Billy when you check out at happyplacehemp.com, and you're going to love it. You're going to love the products, the Delta 8, Delta 9 gummies, recreational use only. Not before you go to like your electrician ship. Not before you go to drive heavy machinery. You do that when you're on the couch enjoying yourself for the rest of the afternoon. Not enjoying yourself like Drake, okay? Let's X that thing on out here.
Whoa.
We're not doing that. You're enjoying some time, hanging out, trying to relax. That's what you do with Happy Place Hemp and happyplacehemp.com. And I love Rob and Chris over in Muskego. Love buying local, legal hemp products at happyplacehemp.com. Get 25% off every time using promo code Billy. And make sure if you don't stop by the store in Muskego, you tell them Bill Schmid sent you. All right, on the line right now, Trey Crosby hanging out with us as he does Tuesdays at this time to discuss some Milwaukee Bucks and hopefully put us in a little bit of happier mind space because, Trey, over the weekend, you want to go on topsy-turvy feeling of emotions. In the middle of Saturday night's game, people are saying, why on earth would you even fire Adrian Griffin if this is what you're gonna get? Then Sunday, in the middle of that game against Utah, all right, cooking with gas, maybe back-to-back wins, real heck of a trip, and it all encompasses losing a game in Portland that is tough to feel like you should lose. It's a weird trip, but it always is tough when you go to the Western Conference 2 days away from the trade deadline here in the dog days, right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate you guys having me on as usual. I'm trying to make sense of it, and there's a couple things that I look at, and I don't want to harp on Doc Rivers. We know he's only had one practice with this basketball team. It does seem like the defense has turned a corner. Of course, they gave 40 points the other night against Utah in the fourth quarter, but the defense, for the most part, I would say, looks a little bit better. You saw a lot of that against Dallas in that game. To me, one of the biggest issues so far, since Doc has taken over, even when Joe Prunty was at the helm, and you heard the players talk about it, you heard people talk about it. Well, the offense is historic, but it looks clunky. Well, and again, maybe it is Doc Rivers trying to implement his scheme. Maybe it's just, I don't know. To me, the offense looks clunkier. As clunky as it ever has, in certain times. Again, I don't know that I'm attributing that to Adrian Griffin or Doc, but it seemed like the offense flowed just a little bit better before Doc Rivers got in charge. But, that's neither here nor there. My biggest concern, because understanding that Doc Rivers just got in this basketball team, the roster's going to turn over some of the deadlines. My biggest concern is the play of Damian Lillard. And, I mean, you can look at it. The Bucks' record is they hardly lose when Damian Lillard scores at least 25 points. And the issue, for me that I look at are his inconsistent performances from night in to night out. He's dealing with some personal issues and the things that have gone on in his life, but he has got to be better. And you know what to expect, good or bad, from certain other players on the roster. When Damian Lillard is good, the Bucks are good. When he's bad, the Bucks are going to struggle to win. The record just is not as to put up 25 points compared to when he does.
Trey, with Doc being in there now and the rotation obviously being different with the bench and how you sub players in and out, what have you noticed with Doc Rivers? I thought this was going to be one of the first adjustments we were going to hear a lot about is who he plays in what rotations and how much bench minutes they actually get. What have you been seeing there so far? And is there any problem with the way Doc's doing it, or is it much better than before?
No, and I think it's kind of hard to judge them as well because the last couple of games, it was a back-to-back. You had Brook Lopez out for both of those games. He's celebrating the birth of his child. And then you have Chris Middleton, who didn't play on the back-to-back on a night that they So and this is what
we losing Trey a little bit here, Armin. Why don't we reconnect and make sure that he's dialed on in here? Let's check and make sure that he gets dialed on in. Grab him on the line and check it on out, because that is a different part of it, right? It's once you see how you're going to utilize the bench, older coaches, John, I think are going to generally err on playing more veteran players. Like that, I don't think that's just an exclusive Doc deal, but I think that's kind of a byproduct of it.
Billy, I think it's any coach is going to rotate players differently. He's going to have different groupings that he likes on the court at different times. He's going to have certain guys that he's going to go to at different moments in the game. Timing will be switched up. Rotations will be switched up. And are they natural rapport? Are these the lineups that the players wanted to get in there and play with? Or is this, going to be Doc saying, hey, this is what needs to be done. This is what you haven't been doing so long. So that's what I was interested to see early on with how he rotates the players in off the bench.
Yeah. And Trey, how tough is that? Like you're generally going to lean on the vets, like you mentioned, but like there's so much youth on that bench that unless they're able to really change it around here in 2 days, some of these guys are the ones that you're going to kind of have to count on at some point.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was getting at. So hopefully you can hear me here.
Beautiful.
The way that the thing that's been interesting to me, and what I kind of thought would happen was the young guys that were playing, because again, remember, Adrian Griffin was brought in as a guy that would develop younger players, something that Mike Budenholzer did not have the patience for or would not do. You saw Adrian Griffin trying to incorporate Andre Jackson Jr., especially into this group, just for some youth, for some athleticism. I mean, so if I was to look at one thing and say, okay, this is the thing Doc Rivers is doing that is so different, it's the fact these young guys can't get on the floor. I mean, Giannis and Damian Lillard played 40 minutes on Saturday against the Mavericks, and then they had a back-to-back against the Jazz that Sunday. They played 40 minutes. Brook Lopez was out for both of those games. Chris Middleton missed the back end of it. And neither Andre Jackson or MarJon both can't get in any of those games. And then post game, they asked Doc about, why did, what could you have done differently with the rotation of minutes? I think they asked him specifically about the young guys. And Doc Rivers' answer was, well, I would have actually played Robert Lopez more. And so, from a minutes perspective, I think Doc I don't have an issue with his rotations. I think one of the things he's also doing is making sure Giannis is on the floor to start most of the fourth quarters. I think he's staggering probably a little bit better than what Adrian Griffin did, but he has definitely shortened up that rotation. And those young guys they cannot get actual minutes, so that's something to monitor. He talked about potentially playing them, but definitely something to monitor. And one of the things, again, Doc Rivers is not really known for playing a lot of young guys either, and that's, I think, the mantra of an old school coach or a veteran coach. They want to play. They want to trust and play their veteran players.
So, Trey, as I'm looking right now, ESPN has their tracker of all different rumors going around. We've heard DeJounte Murray, Bruce Brown, Andrew Wiggins' name got thrown in there as somebody that, could be on the move and maybe would be a little bit of a difference maker out on the perimeter that they could bring on in. I don't really like that name at all. But the one that just popped on up here that ESPN has is the only information here today is that PJ Tucker is actively trying to get himself traded out of Los Angeles. They can't assume that salary, I wouldn't believe, but that could be a buyout situation. How does PJ Tucker end up on this basketball team by March?
Got to be in a buyout situation, and I'm not sure, what's going to happen. I would say this: I probably would not trade my assets for PJ Tucker. I like PJ, and all the nostalgia and all the things that went around that 2021 basketball team. I wouldn't want to trade for him. I would say that. I think I don't want to say we have that guy on the roster, but Jay Crowder is PJ Tucker light. That they're kind of the same player. Jay Crowder probably has a little more offensive game to him at this point in his career. I love PJ on the team, but I think it would have to be in the buyout market in a situation where the Milwaukee Bucks trade multiple guys out and then only get a couple back or something like that, and open yourself up to a couple buyout spots. I do think the Bucks will be active on the buyout market. I don't think there's any question about that, but that's the way I think PJ ends up on this basketball team is if you can get him through the buyout. And that's the other thing. PJ not only doesn't want to be traded, but the rumors and everything I've heard about PJ Tucker is he wants to play. Like, he wants minutes. And I look at the Milwaukee Bucks team and I go, well, I don't know if there are like consistent minutes for PJ Tucker.
Sure.
I think he's a great spot guy. I think you can put him in and bring him in here and there. I just don't know where, when you have a Jay Crowder on the basketball team, they're just going to be all the time minutes, 20-plus minutes a night for PJ Tucker. I don't see it.
Trey, what do the Bucks need more here coming up on the trade deadline? Do they need a defensive wing, or do they need more size after watching Utah the other night?
Well, again, I wasn't upset about the Utah game as much because your size was I guess it's back in Milwaukee. You had a 7-footer, over 7-footer that wasn't available to you. Yeah, I think you need a little bit of both, to be honest with you. And again, it just depends on what they can get back from Bobby Portis. One name you didn't mention there, Billy, was the trade rumors out of Dallas with Grant Williams and that potential for him coming to Milwaukee. And I think the Bucks wanted some more outside of that. And you talk about Andrew Wiggins. If Andrew Wiggins, if he is 100% committed to playing basketball, he was instrumental in that championship for the Golden State Warriors. So he is definitely a player that the Milwaukee Bucks could use if he's playing at full capacity. If he is,
it's a big if.
Knockout spark home run. It's a big if. It is a big if. I tend to think that it's probably going to be something smaller, like a DeLon Wright or something of that nature. I wouldn't want a Chris Dunn. I just think it's going to be something smaller, not for the fact that John Horst isn't trying, because all the news we're getting is he's very aggressive on the market. But I think if I was to give a prediction, I would think it's going to be one of two things: either a smaller move that people feel like maybe won't really move the needle, or it's going to be something that we have not, one of these rumors that we have not heard at all. Kind of like the Damian Lillard coming out of nowhere,
right?
To the Bucks. So I don't think DeJounte Murray is going to be in the cards for the Bucks.
Yeah, it always seems like Horst is more aggressive than we think, though. But it's going to involve one of Bobby or Pat, right? That's the idea that everyone's coming up with. Obviously, the Mark Stein rumor report was Bobby with Grant and maybe somebody else, Grant Williams. I don't know. Are you okay with that if they move Bobby or Pat? Is that the way it has to be, Trey, do you think, to get this team better? Or would you rather, maybe this is the emotional side of it, the nostalgia side, like you talked about. Would you rather have them ride with the fan favorite still, Bobby, and not make a move that involves him?
Yeah, no, I'm okay with moving on from Bobby. Remember in the playoff series against Brooklyn, he didn't play games 5, 6, or 7. There are just some series where he's going to be unplayable. And again, this team has the offense. You're looking for what you can do defensively, and Bobby just doesn't help you. So it's a different fit from that 2021 team that was more defensive oriented, and you could use a Bobby Portis offense and he could lag a little defensively. So I'm okay with Bobby if he goes. I'm okay if he stays. I think that one of the things Doc Rivers has done has taken away all the straight up ISOs and post ups that Bobby Portis used to have free reign to at all times. So I'm glad I've seen that. But I'll say this: Pat Connaughton, I would be shocked if he's on the basketball team. And you talk about the only way to actually make moves. Pat Connaughton makes about $9 million or so. Bobby Portis makes around $12 million or so.
Right.
Those are your big contracts that you move because you're not moving anybody in your core four. So if you want to make a move and bring back some salary, you're going to have to throw out some salary, and those are the two biggest salaries that the Bucks have that they'd be willing to move.
Trey, you said Grant Williams, and I watched Billy's face, and yet I was reading all the Andrew Wiggins stuff the last 24 hours, and I'm wondering, you have to take one. One of them's going to get forced on you, Trey. Which one? Andrew Wiggins, Grant Williams, and why will Bucks Twitter explode?
If I had to pick one, I would pick Andrew Wiggins because the ceiling is so much higher offensively and defensively. Bucks Twitter would explode for one reason, because again, you're going to remember what Grant Williams did to you back in 2022, and so that's one of the things. And Andrew Wiggins, I think people just going to have a lot of questions about if his heart is into basketball and the type of guy he is. But again, if you get a really good Andrew Wiggins, I would be surprised if that's the move. If you get a good Andrew Wiggins, that would be a move that I would say is closer to a needle mover for the Milwaukee Bucks. But again, but the needle could move either way. It could be like great and you're propelling yourself to a championship, or it could really take you down a spiral.
The Wiggins thing is tough because, like you mentioned, Trey, I love him as a player. I just don't know what you're getting. And that's the difficult part of this deadline as to where they're at right now. I don't know that there's a whole lot of surefire things across the entire NBA. And they don't have really the assets to be in a for sure situation thing, right? Like they got to be taking some kind of a lottery ticket swing. And the only reason why I would go with Wiggins, John, I mean, he was the second best player on that title team. that won for Golden State, right? Like he was the second reason why they won that, right behind Curry. He doesn't have to do that, but he's got to be dialed on in, Trey. And I think they could, but damn, that's one that is, if that whiffs, how much are you setting yourself back? Because you're going to then unload all your tradable assets to be in that sweepstakes, right?
Oh yeah, no, you would definitely set yourself back if that took place and it did whiff or it did not work. I want to ask you guys this though, and I was wondering because again the Bucks only have really to use the second round pick that they got from Portland. That's going to be an early 30s pick that again people are valuing as a late first rounder or as good as a late first rounder. I want to ask you this: if we just talk about Doc Rivers and let's say he's not going to use Andre Jackson Jr., he's not using MarJon Beauchamp. And I think Jury's still out. Well, he played AJ Green, who played pretty well.
I was going to say AJ played a lot more.
Game.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with 1, 2, or 3 of those guys? Because if you're the Bucks, maybe saying, hey, I don't have the assets from a draft capital standpoint, but I got some young guys who, like I said, a MarJon Beauchamp who was a first round draft pick, and AJ Green who looks just as serviceable as a Sam Merrill who's out in Cleveland right now, who's playing well for a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's won 14 in their last 15. Who maybe could be used, or an Andre Jackson Jr. who looks like a young, athletic build who can run up and down and maybe would help a struggling team, or you don't know what he's going to develop into. Would you be okay with the Bucks, especially if they're not going to play those type of guys? Would you be okay with the Bucks using those as, hey, we don't have draft capital, but we have some young guys, and throwing those guys as sweeteners as part of some deals to maybe get, like I said, an Andrew Wiggins or DeJounte Murray, if you will, because it's been rumored, or Dorian Finney-Smith, who's been rumored that the Brooklyn Nets want 2 first-round picks for him. Say, okay, I don't have 2 first-round picks, but I got a MarJon and an Andre Jackson Jr.
Yeah, and apparently Alex Caruso, they want an OG Anunoby type deal for. Like, okay, cool, not swimming in that pond. I loved Caruso's name all year long. That's just not going to happen. I'm not against it, Trey, because I think those guys do need ops, and they're just not going to get it here. Like MarJon Beauchamp, I think he can play, but it's clear that he's buried right now. That if somebody sees that as the value equivalent of a first round pick, then sure. Like that to me is almost, it's just a harder sell maybe for some other teams to say, yeah, we'll bring all these guys in who are closer to being extended, closer to being out of their rookie window. But we got minutes that they can actually play.
You said at the rookie window. That's how I feel about it. You'd have to exercise any value you have because right now he's giving you none. And the more he gives you none, the more he doesn't play. Those guys, the more you're losing their rookie window. And I think that's a big thing for those teams. I wouldn't like losing Andre Jackson because I think
that's your boy.
I've always liked him on this team. I've always liked the energy he brings. I think he's going to be a nice role player in this league. And it would stink to give him up because I think it's going to happen, but you might have to if your window's now. Same with MarJon. I think we all want him to do well and succeed, but it's just not happening on this team.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we want. It matters really what Giannis wants and how he sees that thing. And I'm being serious, Trey, when we talk about all the moves at the trade deadline or no moves, needle mover or not needle mover, I think you got to make sure you do whatever it is that makes Giannis feel like you're going on, and you already made a coaching change once to say this year, we're not sitting around, we're not waiting. You got to kind of have that same mindset at the trade deadline, do you not?
Yeah, but I would hope, and even though it does seem that Giannis is asserting more authority into, moves that are made on the roster and in the staff, I would hope that he's not going full LeBron James and monitoring, 6 through 12 on the roster as well. Like it's one thing to say, hey, I want a different point guard. I want a Hall of Fame level talent to play with me. If you're also, making calls on AJ Green and that's just a different level right now. Now I do get that he probably does make the call on Thanasis, but outside of that,
I have him.
I mean,
and that's always going to happen.
I'd be upset if he's calling the shots on the in guys on the bench.
He seemed pretty happy the other day. He said we're going to be fine, very, very fine. He seemed pretty positive after they lost.
Very, very fine.
Knowing what's going on, he thinks their defense is getting better. I tend to agree. So his comments make me feel a little bit better about the situation, knowing maybe they've lost these last couple games and back-to-back, whatever, no Brooke and no Chris. But we can see the direction changing. We can see this shift, this big ship carrying, maybe turning around and going the right way. So that makes me feel better, I think. You have to trust Giannis on that, I would say. I don't know how you feel, Trey.
Well, I mean, he has to say that because, again, all this falls on him. The hiring of Adrian Griffin falls on him. The firing of Adrian Griffin falls on him. The hiring of Doc Rivers falls on him.
Yeah.
Everyone, the Damian, it all falls on him. So, yeah, he better say that it's very, very fine and all dandy because otherwise, again, he's going to be at a press conference at the end of the year trying to convince everybody how it wasn't a failure. And it might have worked last year, and he got some criticism, some heat for it, but I think overwhelmingly people backed him up. It's not going to work this year. That's not going to be – you're not going to be able to get away with a line or an introspective thought this year at the podium if you're out in round 1 or even in round 2.
Steps to success.
Right. You might be right. Yeah,
I think he is right.
But
I don't think that's he already got lambasted nationally for that one. That's going to happen again if he tries that thing again.
For that part, yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, and you're saying, he has to say that. So the idea being he being disingenuous. I tend to always think Giannis is being honest. So I think he's going to give us his honest take. He was being, if it's true that he got Adrian in here, he didn't do him any favors when he said we don't know what we're doing out there. So it wasn't like he was trying to make, trying to not be honest to make Adrian work, right? So we'll see what happens. But I tend to think Giannis tells us how he feels most of the time, truly what he feels.
Coming up here tonight, it's Bucks and Suns. After the game, you're going to talk with this guy, Trey Crosby, Cream City crossover post game. Trey, I'm fired up for the show tonight, even after the 9:00 tip. And then a good home slate comes on in. People are not realizing Minnesota Timberwolves, if you have been buried into football, they're the number 1 team in the Western Conference. Chris Finch is coaching the Western Conference team for the All-Star game. So that one Thursday night, fun at Fiserv Forum. Reigning champs are in here Monday after the Super Bowl. Trey, we'll be listening to all the coverage and this weekend on your T's and Q's. Appreciate you hanging out with us, dude.
You too.
Trey Crosby on your T's and Q's Saturday mornings where you follow him as well. Look him up on Twitter tonight, or as the kids call it, X. And you can grab the Cream City crossover post game. John Tyus on there. I like Trey even more. John's my guy, though. Like, I don't say that when Trey's...
Damn, we just hung up on him. The body's not even cold, and you're already throwing dirt on top.
I know. That was kind of rough, but John's my guy. He knows that.
Well,
they know that,
Trey
too.
Then I'll be Team Trey then. Armin, you gotta solve the tiebreaker.
I mean, I like all the guys. What do you mean?
Shocker. Shocker.
He'll never pick. He's Switzerland.
No, I do, and I love the show. Should I be Team Pipe Bomb? I love the show.
Team Pipe Bomb. Yeah, take Team Pipe Bomb.
Yeah.
That's the perfect
I've been disagreeing more with Trey lately. I think that's just the cycle of things. I don't think in general I'm being more contrarian. I love the show though, but I do disagree with
Trey's aggressive. You're laid back. You're not into that type of.
Oh yeah,
mentality.
that's for sure.
Well, Trey. And Trey's been going after Giannis a little bit more than I like.
You love Trey taking out the trash. That's your favorite.
Yeah, it's a great show.
It's one of the best bits in radio, dude.
It's great. And just because you don't agree with someone's takes doesn't mean you don't like what they do in their show and all, and like them. Of course not. No,
I'm a big fan of Trey.
Of course not. Of course not. No,
I miss the beeps.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, he fixed that, and it's kind of
we had drops.
Losing a little bit of luster. Yeah, we had the drops. We figured that on out.
Not as fun.
Much firmer connection there.
I have a feeling that was on our end, but whatever.
Could have been.
I think it was. Once we reconnected, we were all dialed out.
I'll go climb the tower, I guess, or something. I don't know. I'll go climb the phone towers. It might have been on our end.
I think it was on our. Yeah, I think it was on our end.
Could have been.
Now we're gonna send Hunter on up there. Let's be honest. That's a Hunter gig to get on up to the top of the tower.
Okay, guys. Okay.
I guess I'll do it, guys. All right.
I'm not really good with heights, but I'll do it.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it. It's like, I'm gonna find the magic problem in the phone line here. What about, I'm not Alexander Graham Bell. Like, how do I know what's going on up there?
I don't know that he fixed a whole lot of them. He just invented it.
Yeah, I guess it's a good point. You would think he was an early fixer, though, that there's an issue with an early phone.
Potentially.
Call Alex over here.
All I would have said if I was Alex, you try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Plug it back in, baby.
That's my support. 9 to noon returns right after this. Mike Vrabel is what? You can't be a head coach because of why? We'll fill you in next on the game.
Something? You can't tell me nothing.
John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And right now, it seems almost impossible to get a good interest rate on anything but your savings account or your money market. So here's a way that you can make some money. I don't know how Pella is giving this deal away, but 0% interest for 60 months, plus you're earning all that interest in a money market. You are going to be booming. Imagine having beautiful Pella windows and doors installed, but not having to make a single payment on them for 5 years. Take advantage because this deal at Pella only lasts until February 23rd. Pella's expert team installs year-round, and they can customize any new window or door to match your unique home decor. They finish installation in as little as a day, and when they leave, you can barely tell they were there. Your gorgeous windows and doors are an obvious sign, but really, that's about it. I was blown away by the talent, efficiency, and professionalism by the team at Pillow Windows and Doors. Start customizing your home order today with 0% interest for 5 years. Certain restrictions apply. See showroom for details. Offer ends February 23rd.
Travis Kelce last night talking to our guy Jeremiah, my man. Absolute electric factory when he's on the mic, dude.
My city, he said.
My city. Come on into my city. What
My
you like
city.
doing in here? Oh, I like going to the Win Club, but you can't go over there. Guys. Can't go in there.
That was so awesome.
I thought he was going to say that his favorite thing in Las Vegas was, playing in the match with his guy Pat. Instead, apparently, no. This guy's just going to drink and party away.
Sounds like he's retiring.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
See,
Sounds
I kind of heard that too.
I took that as I'm not answering your question, kid. You're not getting the clickbait, but I'm also not saying no. I am seriously considering this being it. I'm going to be sad when it's done, is what he said. And Armin, it sounds like Travis Kelce's retired.
Well, no, I didn't get it. I didn't get that sense. I'll be honest with you. Maybe, that's how you guys heard it. I get the sense he's going to let the wheels fall off because he loves playing. I get the sense he's trying to convince his brother to come play with the Chiefs. That's what I get the sense. Don't you think?
Well,
Why
it definitely
that in about Jason like that. I mean, wow.
Because I don't, and I get it. I respect it. I don't think Jason Kelce wants his retirement to be leaked out by Adam Schefter. And I respect it. I do.
Okay, that's a good
because
point. Yeah.
when you've earned a certain level of cachet in the NFL, I do think you have the opportunity that you deserve to be able to say it your way instead of saying something to some guys in a very emotional situation in the locker room. So I think that's part of the reason he's getting leaked out there. But John, I heard the exact same thing you did. I heard the exact same thing you did. I love it. Nobody loves playing ball more than me.
And
but I'm pretty damn good, so I might be.
To be honest with you, if you want hard questions asked, don't send in Adam Schefter. Don't send in Diana Versini. Don't send in Matt Schneidman. Send in the kid. Send in the 11-year-old kid and give him the hot fireball questions that some people are like, I got to stay friends with this guy. Kids can ask anything they want. They can be brutally honest too.
So true.
They can be like, Travis, you looked old during the season. You were not performing the way that you are accustomed to performing. But now in the playoffs, hey, you look all right. Is this going to buy you another year? It looked like you were hanging it up halfway through the season. Are you going to still hang it up? I mean, that's what you do. You have the kids go in and just be brutally honest.
Hold the microphone on up and say, Travis, this is the first time since 2015 you have not gotten 1,000 yards receiving in the regular season. Does that mean that you can no longer do it for a 17-game regular season and just play in the playoffs? Well, damn, maybe. Yeah, maybe it is.
I know when I have hard questions. I know when I have hard questions to ask my wife, I just send in a 6-year-old.
That's a great call.
Go ask your mom, what's for dinner?
Yeah, because it is totally.
And can we go get takeout?
Go ask your mom when the laundry's going to be done. I need my golf socks. Please. If you do this, I'll get you some extra gummy worms.
There we go.
Because the kids are totally disarming, right? I mean,
Dad needs his golf socks. That's what they said. No, I said ask the question.
No, ask it nicer. What are you doing? Put on a smile.
It's a totally different feel. Like when the kid asks, it's disarming. Like, can you imagine giving the exact same lines to Bob McGinn and have him ask those questions?
Not going to cut.
It would have been a totally different kind of scenario. And it's like, oh, it's a kid. You can ask me these funny questions about retiring, and I'm sure he asked about dating Taylor and other stuff like that. I didn't play any of that.
There was a decent amount of Taylor questions. There were even more questions about Taylor that I felt were directed to anybody but Travis Kelce. Right, like every single one of his teammates was asked about it. Do you feel like this is now your mission to continue growing the game? He's like, no. Like, I mean, I appreciate it. I'm glad that it happened, but it's not my job.
And we should have just sent kids in for all of these, because I'm sure that the players, when they got their little list of things that they were going to talk about on opening night / media day, they had little clip notes there now. All right, now Taylor, she won this Grammy and she won that Grammy, but she did not win this Grammy. So now you're educated on Taylor Swift and you can answer these questions, because I'm sure they all got cliff notes there Sunday night, Monday morning on how to properly answer this, because you don't want to be Travis Kelce's teammate that has no clue that Taylor Swift has the most Grammys but is not one song of the year. You can't do it. You're not allowed.
That's fair. Yeah,
I
you got to know that kind of stuff.
I think more outlets are going to start utilizing kids now for their toughest questions, for their toughest journalism, because people are more likely to answer it from kids. This is going to be a strategy behind you. You're going to see now. Everyone's going to have a child reporter or like a kid's reporter, and they're going to start asking questions that are going to be
wait
tough.
until the little one starts talking. You're going to send him in for all the hard questions. All the tough
stuff.
And I'm
Hey,
right now.
Go ask mommy if I can go on this golf trip.
Go ask mommy if we can go get Calder's tonight.
It's over Valentine's Day. But just go ask her. Just say, hey, Daddy wants to go on a golf trip sometime in early to mid-February. Are you okay with that?
I think mine's still going to be.
And put the puppy dog eyes.
Go ask your mom if she wants blizzards. Okay, sweet. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Little guy right now is in the spot where he's only saying dada. I'm trying to help out here. Oh, mama, dada. That's not going over well. That is not going over well in the house right now. 414-799-1973. A stat about Pat Mahomes that continues to amaze. You want to talk about the tough questions? Somebody asked Pat Mahomes maybe the dumbest question last night, but ultimately, I guess it probably had to be asked. And you want to talk about him knowing that he was going to get asked about it. I think he was well prepped. And is the NBA getting too cute? Too cute. Something that football players would not be able to handle. The NBA is going to try. We'll discuss it next before we give one update on who has submitted their picks for You Better You Bet. That's in 20 minutes. It's 9 to noon on the game.
I've been so many places, I've seen so many faces, but nothing compares to these blue and yellow purple hills. I've climbed the highest mountain, once or twice, but who's counting? But nothing compares to these
9 to
blue
noon,
and
it's
yellow
time to
purple
sock it to
hills.
Stinky Feet with some free Iron Jock socks now through February 18th. When you buy $75 or more of Iron Jock performance apparel, not only will you get 25% off your entire order, but you will get 2 free pairs of black low-cut socks when you use promo code 25socks. That's promo code 25socks now through February 18. Go to ironjock.com for details. That's ironjoc.com. Discussing Super Bowl opening night last night, one of the stories that started breaking while at Super Bowl opening night, being addressed by the 49ers and their coach Kyle Shanahan, was some frustration about the 49ers practice facility. They're using the UNLV practice field. So if the host team, the host city, is in the AFC, from what I've been able to calculate here, you get the team's practice facility. If you are the visiting team, so this would be the NFC, would be technically the visiting team, even though I believe they're wearing the home jerseys, or they're wearing their away jerseys. Yeah, Chiefs are wearing their Reds.
Okay.
You got to just go to the nearest one. So they're at UNLV, and there was some questions about it being too soft. They won't alter the practice. Kyle Shanahan said, it is what it is. We'll be all right. It's the field we got. We're good. Trying to downplay the frustration about it. But many people were bringing it up. It got brought up to Roger Goodell as well. Now, John, there's so much conversation about the field surfaces for games. The field surface for the game last year was highly questioned by the Philadelphia Eagles. 49ers just starting to set some leaves out, just give themselves some outs if they get beat here? Or is this just a gripe that we have to get 6 days away from the Super Bowl to make sure that we keep drumming up some drama for the Super Bowl?
You know, I heard Zabe again this morning, and in typical Zabe fashion, he was wrong. He said 49ers complaining about the field, just suck it up, go out there and play, stop complaining about the field. The 49ers answered questions yesterday and were like, the field's the field. We're going to practice on it. We're going to play. You know, these were leaks that the 49ers were unhappy about the field. They're allowed to be unhappy about the damn field. When I went down to the Super Bowl, we got snow, and guess what? We couldn't practice on our field because it was an outdoor field, and they couldn't remove the snow, and they couldn't get rid of it. So we practiced in an indoor high school bubble, which is kind of not acceptable. You know, these things are supposed to be laid out and finished by, you know, sometime in November. These fields are supposed to be immaculate by sometime in November. But you roll with the punches and you have your fun with it. And, you know, the 49ers went there, they saw the field. They're like, man, this is a trash field we need to practice on. And, you know, a couple inside sources with a couple of the, you know, the whisper down the lane groups get it out there that, hey, this field's mushy. It's soft. It's got seams in it. Do you guys remember we went to do a preseason game up in Canada? We had to play on an 80-yard field.
I remember that because
in the end zone,
the end zones, yeah,
it was too hard and tacky. We also had a preseason game at Canton, and the field was too sticky, so they canceled the game. You can't do that with the Super Bowl. The players know it. They're going to go out there. They're going to practice. They're going to be just fine. This will have absolutely no impact on the game. This will have absolutely no excuse built in here whatsoever. They might not like the field, whatever. They don't really care. They really don't care at all.
I love Shardarius Ward. He goes, we're not playing on it, so we're not tripping. It's like, I'm not concerned at all. I can run full speed at any surface. I played football on the street as a kid.
Let's go.
It'll be okay.
I love that.
So did I.
Yeah. That's a tougher field to be playing on than something smushy. Like, I mean,
well,
the
tough part about playing in the street, which we all did, was when you get to the sides of the street, that's where the pebbles are. You got to stay away from the pebbles because you straight down. And then when you fall on the street, now you're all kinds of cut up. So you had to really keep your footing around the sidelines or just run straight out of bounds and fall in the yard.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the curbs definitely helped in our neighborhood because it was almost like curbs, you were just trying to like hold your feet in bounds, right? It was like, can I make this spectacular catch landing into the Hartman's yard if I hold my feet right on up here and dive on in.
Yeah, me too. It was the curb situation. And I knew that we were going to say that. And John was going to say, well, I didn't play on a curb.
Or it's like a sideline that you're just running right on down because the paint's a little bit different.
We didn't have curbs or sidewalks. We were just playing in the street. And I'm telling you, when you hit that boundary, that's where
you had to make a business decision.
Well, that's where all the pebbles were.
Yeah.
And I mean, playing basketball, playing football, it didn't matter. You were sliding on those pebbles. The street games were rough. They were tough.
Yeah. And then you'd wait for the street light to come on. That was our big thing. When the street light came on, before it did, right when that twilight, when it was dark enough, you throw it or kick it higher so the guy is more likely to fumble. And then you could get a good look. That's just the way it went. And but yet, there were certain yards you couldn't get into. Like, the Mikowski didn't want us in his yard, and certain guy didn't want us in his yard, and the ball went there. You want to get in, then get out.
Did they have really nice yards? Or?
Nah, not really. It's just, how it is. Your kids get off my lawn type of stuff. There were certain, the
get on out of here.
Panzarellas were okay, but Nellis didn't care. Logan, we were playing by his yard anyway, at my yard, so it didn't matter. Rothfelder was all right with it, but they had the dogs, so you don't want to
watch out over there.
Out for the waking up the dogs, so you had to watch. Oh gosh, over the fence. So there's a lot to navigate on these streets.
You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you got to be safe. You got to be careful with some of that stuff.
That's just the way it was.
Goodell was also asked, and this is not Super Bowl field related, but with so many different stadiums now after the World Cup announced the locations for their games in 2026. Some of these places are going to install the natural grass and then go back to artificial surface.
Yeah, this is what's wild. UNLV has an artificial field, but they were installing grass because the Super Bowl is played on grass in Vegas. We know about that field. We've talked about that field. Wayne Larrivee had me write up a whole
wanted every detail on it.
Yeah, cultural report. Yeah,
I had a whole report on the field. And so because they're playing on natural grass, they installed natural grass directly on top of the turf at UNLV. But they didn't do it perfect. They went in there with some sod. They got some seams. Oh, well, it's still a little too soft. It'll rip up. They'll get through it. Hopefully no injuries happen on that field. And then you won't hear any complaint. As long as there's not some freak accident injury, you won't hear anything about it. And the 49ers aren't complaining. I haven't heard one 49er complain about it.
No, Adam Schefter complained for the 49ers, which is my favorite part of it. It says on the ESPN story, installed the sod field on top of the turf field surface. And this is my favorite part, John. You know more about this. NFL normally requires Super Bowl practice fields to meet certain standards in December, and the Niners' softness score for fields averages 78, with no field score being less than 70. The Niners field for the week landed somewhere in the 50s.
They have scores for
the
this
hell
stuff?
Are those numbers?
What?
They got scores?
Talk about soft. That's what it sounds like to me. I didn't know they had scores for this soft.
But is this like, Armin, is this like the prospect scale where it's like 20 to 80?
Yeah, it must be. Like in baseball, 80 raw, 20 raw, 50. No, I don't. This is weird. I never heard of this. I never heard of this. It's like wind chill. People making up. No, I'm just kidding.
I also like the fact
it
that
is the Super Bowl now. So
Yeah.
if Adam's going to make a mountain out of a molehill, this is the time to do it.
Well, and how about it too? Just a little bit of a subtle dig to the team that's not here, Philadelphia Eagles. 49ers like, oh yeah, you guys complained and bitched all year long, so that was the only reason why you lost. We'll play on whatever field. Don't matter. We'll win whatever game we need to play. It don't matter. I like that style. I don't like the 49ers though, and I hope it does impact their play coming up on Sunday. Hour number 3 at 9 to noon. Straight ahead, we'll get a look. Anybody in yet for You Better You Bet? We got a can't miss as well. It's 9 to noon on the game.
It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume some skirts for the E, so I could get some phones. Rolling in my ride, chilling all alone.
Just hit the east side.
Can you turn down the background? John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And right now it seems almost impossible to get. John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And right now it seems almost impossible to get a good interest rate on anything these days. I don't know how Pella's. John Kuhn here for Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And it seems almost impossible to get a good interest rate on anything these days. And I don't know how Pella is doing this incredible deal, but listen up. Get 0% interest for up to 60 months. Imagine having beautiful Pella windows and doors installed, but not having to make a single payment on them for 5 years. Take advantage because this deal at Pella only lasts until February 23rd. Pella's expert team installs year-round, and they can customize any window or door to match your unique home decor. They finish installation in as little as a day, and when they leave, you can barely tell they were there. Your gorgeous windows and doors are an obvious sign, but really, that's about it. I was blown away by the talent, the efficiency, and the professionalism that encapsulates the team at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. So start customizing your home today with 0% interest for up to 5 years, or have no money down, no interest, and no payment for up to 18 months. But you have to hurry. The offer ends February 23rd. So visit PellaWI.com and tell Gina Della that John Kuhn sent you. Certain restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
I said he's so sweet, I wanna the rapper. So I let it say I'm like a lollipop. She say I'm like a lollipop.
Back on the game, hour number 3 at 9 to noon rolls on with you, John Kuhn, Armin Sarian, playing some Lil Wayne, which is never a problem here on the game. We also have some Packers, coaching staff news. So over the weekend, guys, Sean Mannion joined the staff as a former backup quarterback. He's going to join the pass game specialists as an offensive assistant. He opens up his dabbling into coaching. Overnight, Mike Reese of ESPN, covers the New England Patriots, had the story that Jerry Montgomery is going to move from the Green Bay Packers staff as defensive line coach, and I believe run game coordinator. He's going to go take over the defensive line room in New England. And the Packers have made at least a couple of staff hires here, and one just now that is getting some people very, very excited. 2 staff members that are not going to return: Greg Williams and inside linebackers coach Kirk Olivadotti. We were wondering about KO. He's been a long-time assistant. Matt LaFleur has talked extremely highly of him. Olivadotti will be joining the staff with new Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald. Packers DC, Jeff Hafley is bringing in D-line coach from Boston College, Vince Ogonabasi is how I think we're going to go with that name. All right. I think we're going to go with that. We're going to let him tell us exactly how it ends up being. But Vince, easier way to say it, coached with Hafley with the 49ers, also spent time at Ohio State and UCLA. He will replace Montgomery as the defensive line coach, another Boston College coach that's coming on in. Natural joining for Hafley, co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach Sean Duggan. Duggan was a grad assistant at Ohio State with Hafley and has risen quickly up the ladder, but that hasn't happened yet. Not sure if it is possibly a possibility. That's from Tom Silverstein, that he is still dialing that one on in. Packers are former defensive coordinator Joe Barry has now got himself a deal with the Miami Dolphins. He's going to go and be their linebackers coach as well as run game coordinator. And the one that people are very excited about, buzzing just a couple of moments ago, Tom Silverstein writes, big coup for the Packers as Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley grab former linebackers coach for the Miami Dolphins, Anthony Campolani. Campolani had interviewed with the Giants for their DC job, for the Eagles as their linebackers coach. A couple of people had him on their defensive coordinator list as somebody to potentially hire. Very respected linebackers coach, and he will replace KO for the Green Bay Packers. All these names, John, that I mentioned and butchered about half of them.
Well, they're tough names. They are.
Don't know a whole lot about them, but welcome to the family.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to the family.
Jump
Come on,
in.
we got big things to do here in 2024, and you guys are going to be a part of turning this defense around.
Yeah, fired up for it.
Let's go.
Let's see how this whole thing transpires. Jerry Montgomery, you talk about a long-time assistant right there. He goes back to when I was playing for the Packers. He's been around for a minute. And Kenny Clark gave a shout out to him when the news broke. So, yeah, different faces, different places, and it's going to be a new defense. It's going to be a new feel. Going to be a new look. And the last time they switched defensive coordinators, didn't switch up a lot of position coach. So, a lot going into this one. I'm telling you, when Heller said we're not going to notice a whole lot, I think we're going to notice more than what people are really predicting right now.
I missed that part from Mike. What was that statement?
He said he didn't think it was a philosophical change as much, right, John? Or a change we'll notice was something like that. He
doesn't think it's going to be a change we're going to notice all that much, and I do. I think we're going to have more population around the line of scrimmage than what we have in years. I think we're going to notice on third downs and in the red zone, more press on the outside out of our cornerback. I think and Packers fans will get so keyed into third downs, money downs, red zone, what's happening there. And I think that is where you're going to notice a big difference here.
Yeah, but will we notice it? And I guess it still goes back to this. I know fans like aggressiveness when their defenses. They love they equate that with success, aggressiveness, things like that. But the overall results, I know scoring defense has its warts as a stat. We're still pretty good. So I think I'm really curious to see how this all shakes out. I mean, we want an aggressive defense, absolutely, but giving up big plays is what we're worried about. But John, I think it would be interesting to see how much we do notice, at least from the naked eye, at least watching games, just sitting there saying, wow, this defense really looks like they have a different attitude or a different aggressiveness or a different intensity and energy up in the box. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for all these changes because I think they sound good, but we'll see what happens in the field.
This will be red meat for some Packers fans like Armin as well. Campanelli was a piece. You saw him quite a bit on Hard Knocks, the in-season version that they just did about the Miami Dolphins. In one of those meetings that was on camera.
Yeah.
Quoted Vince Lombardi.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. I love
the
that.
Twinkle in Armin's eye when we say that. You can only be seeing that on X and on YouTube, but how beautiful is that?
I wonder which quote he used to.
Imagine for a moment, if you can, a man running down the street with all of your worldly possessions, taking from you everyone that you have ever loved and everything that you hold dear. I guarantee you would find a way by any means necessary to stop that man. That very simply put is pursuit from Vince Lombardi.
Yeah, I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, obviously, and that's the sort of, that's the football mentality you want to instill, right? That's what you want. In defenses, that desperation, that intensity, that alertness, that hunger, that doggedness to go after the ball and go after the quarterback and go after the ball.
You want that anger. You want to put in and strike a little bit of fear in people. You want people to respect you. Some would even say you want them to be intimidated by you, which apparently is what Mike Vrabel did to some folks in NFL hiring circles. Story by Diana Rossini. And listen, I think we're going to name Diana Rossini a friend of the program because she's a friend of Match Diamonds. And if you're a friend of Match Diamonds, you're a friend of ours. Right? You're a friend of ours. So potentially said in an interview that Diana Rossini mentioned for Mike Vrabel and the hiring cycle that some people potentially a little intimidated. Maybe he's a little bit too large in stature. Maybe he's a little too scary. The quote from the Athletic Football Show is, I don't think there was a fit for him. I don't think he sat in front of any owner who thought that his style was going to work for what they were looking for. I had a GM at the Senior Bowl, this from Diana Rossini, who mentioned to me Vrabel's physical build, that he's a very large human, and that can be intimidating to people in an organization that are going to be a part of these decisions, and that is a factor.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's I'm sorry, that's dumb. You mean to tell me Andy Reid's not a big guy? We all saw Andy Reid, third grade punt, pass, and kick competition.
Looking like a creature that they found at the Miami Mall.
Yeah, but tell me Andy Reid's not big?
He's big and cuddly. Isn't that the difference?
You mean to tell me Dan Campbell's not big? He was talking about chewing kneecaps.
He's a large
If he was talking about chewing kneecaps, what do you think he was talking about chewing behind closed doors at the interview?
Zins?
Yeah, potentially. Zins are too soft for him. No, he's chewing Red Man.
I was going to say, that's
he
all
wants
Red Man. Long
Oh, yeah.
cut every day of the week and twice on Sundays for DC. But I mean, come on. Are we serious?
That's what it is wild to see. I can only imagine the how it's going to be the old school football guys, former players versus the analytics nerds, how that little debate will fire up when they see something like this, right? These guys are too scared of him, so they don't want to hire him.
You tell me right now. Those teams that are afraid of Mike Vrabel because he's too big. He's too big in stature. That is hilarious to me. And if there is a team that said that, if there is a team that has people interviewing Mike Vrabel and he is a no because he's too big, those people should not be in their jobs. They should not be in their position.
I mean, how real is it? Because this is really that. I can't imagine this is real. They listen. We think he's a great coach. We want to win, but he's too big. And we're scared of him. It's really hard to believe that to me. I'm not questioning the report.
It sounds like you are.
It's just like maybe some people feel that way, and she gets that sense, and then therefore the report's correct. But I can't imagine that certain teams would put that over winning if they believe he's the right guy. Like it's hard for me to believe that.
You see, but that's the thing, Armin. If they believe he's the right guy, I think they would have hired him. You're trying to sell yourself on if he's the right guy. And then you can try and put a lot of different things into your mind as to why he might not be. It's one of the reasons why I think Bill Belichick is not a head coach here in this hiring cycle, is because people have preconceived notions as to how he will react in a certain situation. And now there's a lot more data on how Bill Belichick's going to respond in a certain situation, but many people are still trying to figure out what happened with Vrabes in Tennessee. And I wonder if they're just running to whatever conclusion they can of, well, Rand Carthon came on in there and Vrabel was too mean and nasty. And Amy Adams Strunk was like, yeah, we're not dealing with this nonsense and we're getting rid of him. So he's just too mean and hard nosed. He's not going to work with anybody. Some people need to be able to get that cracked before they go and say, yeah, he can be our guy.
Yeah. And maybe there something to that. Like, are teams that afraid that he'll be too stubborn? And it's probably a preconceived bias and stereotype. But it's like, if this is big bad football guy, there's no way he's going to work with us and try and listen to what we say or any of our ideas. He's just going to be too stubborn and be too meatheady. I'm sure that's what some people are thinking. Maybe is that what that is? It seems ridiculous to me, but I think don't know.
But what was leaked was ridiculous. It was egregious. There should have been some context to it. Like, why is his stature?
Yeah.
Why is his stature even be brought up? Yes, I agree with you, Billy. If you don't like the guy, say, well, he's a little too intimidating. You just find reasons to not like people. But that's dumb. It's dumb. It's a really dumb way to go about your business. And if Tennessee didn't work, hey, guess what? Newsflash. Some people don't work well together. And if you bring in new people, sometimes they might not work with the people that are there currently. And it's not a big deal. Hey, you chose to go that direction. I can tell you right now, those men that played for the Tennessee Titans, the team who win football games for you, they loved Mike Vrabel as a head coach. They loved that big stature, that massive macho man bravado. And they, for a large number of years, they emulated that bravado when they took the field.
Yep. They took the personality of their head coach, who was a bona fide badass as a player. I mean, like, you're talking about a dude that's caught multiple touchdowns in Super Bowls as a defensive end. He was anything that he can do for the team, anything he can do to dominate the position. And I've listened to Armin's going to laugh. I've listened to Taylor Lewan and Will Compton on their Bustin' with the Boys podcast a number of different times.
That's a good one.
Talk about Vrabes. And it seems like you have to have a certain understanding as to where he's coming from when listening to him. They're like, first year, we all hated that guy. Hated him. Then a year in, we're like, whoa. He's kind of the same dude. We thought he was just trying to be hard-nosed dude and get on everyone's bad side, but that's kind of just who he's going to be day in and day out. And that repetitiveness and the consistency can be then what you come to love about a coach. I understand, though, why people in prominent decision-making spots are trying to find ways to stay away from Mike Vrabel. Because if they do that, John, they keep their power. It's one of the reasons why Bill Belichick's not a head coach, because when he comes in to be your head coach, he's going to bring in certain people, I would assume. He's going to say, I need to make certain decisions. I need to have some input in it. And that takes away power from people that are helping do the hiring. That's not going to be an easy way for you to get that job.
Hey, when Mike Tomlin got the job in Pittsburgh in 2007, he came in and he started doing this new thing in team meetings called the news report or the front page. And he would have like 5 or 6 things that he wanted to address with the team on that front page. This guy's balling. This guy's out of shape. This guy has a problem here. This guy can't do this right. And he would address them in front of the team.
Mm-hmm.
He would undress guys basically in front of the team with that front page news report. Guys took a lot of offense to that. Bill Cowher was just there, very player-oriented. You got the chin on Sundays, but you didn't have the chin during the week. He was put his arm around you. And when Mike Tomlin came in, it was businesslike. It was, and a lot of players didn't like it. They didn't like that change. Well, guess what? The next year, 2008, they were in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes the players need that. They need to be beaten down a little bit. They need to be told what they're doing wrong, right? And I can tell you, it's a lot easier for a man with a big stature to come in and tell players what they're doing wrong. A guy who's been there and done that versus a guy who doesn't have that big stature. It's a lot easier.
So, John, I just want to compare and contrast this real quickly. So we're showing a video. They're trying to show up a video on the screen here in front of the whole team about John Kuhn on one of them is trying to say that you missed a block. It's a little bit easier to hear it from Mike Vrabel, and you'll take it a little bit better than from like a Mike McDaniel, you're saying?
No, I'm talking about if you come in and you're yes, but I think it's even more so. I think it's even more so the hard things that, film don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
Film does not lie. I think it's more along the lines of, hey, this guy came in fat and out of shape, right? You might be able to fake that on film. You might not be able to tell, but he'll let the team know this guy didn't do his work in the offseason. And and you could tell it looks like he didn't do his work in the offseason. He's heavy. He's out of shape. And you get a big guy who comes in here, you get Mike Vrabel to come in and give that message. It's powerful. I remember when Dan Campbell was in the interview process for teams around the league. And the questions were, man, when this guy walks into a room, you can feel his presence. You can actually feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something it's physical as much as it is emotional with him. And you can feel him walking into a room. Well, some teams want that. Some teams want that presence out of a head coach, and some teams don't. Obviously, some of these teams out there, they don't want that big presence. They want that analytical thinking mind that's going to draw the things up and come to the conclusions and give the players
be
the right
collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They want collaborative.
I think that's the thing. I guess, and I don't know because I'm not there. So I guess I would imagine how far he takes that attitude. I mean, I think it's one thing to have that with players and appeal to their toughness and physicality. And I played this game, and these are the hard truths. But is he doing that in meetings with the front office? Is he doing that in meetings with coaches? Is he walking around with the guy that gets the coffee or whatever it is? And
that's
just
the quality control
and bullying everybody around. That's not good either.
Hey, everybody
for some
listens to the football comment, the head football coach comment that is competition and adversity makes everybody better.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody hears that and they're like, yeah, in theory, I believe that. But there's not a lot of people, especially in business, that like use that. Yeah. They don't like that adversity. Mm-mm. They don't like that blunt, straightforward talking. They especially don't like it from a guy who stands 6'4", 250 pounds. It feels intimidating to them. So they want to dabble in the world of football from the business side of things and make these hirings. But the real football side of it, you get a football coach that's consistent in the meeting rooms, other meeting rooms, on the football field. Some would say, well, he can't compartmentalize. Well, others would say, well, he's just true to who he is.
True to who he is. And then I guess that could be, you could say that your greatest strength maybe can be a greatest weakness, or that double-edged sword can be both of those things. If you are, like you said, true to yourself, but maybe can't find a way to adjust it in certain situations when it's not good to be that way. I don't know. I've never, because we always talk about how the head coach has a lot more to do than just coaching football and watching film. They have to be the CEO. They have to be able to manage things. They have to be a business leader, all these different things. So
sounds like you're caping up for the short guys.
The
short thinkers. You want a short thinker.
I want to say this. I just am considering the possibility that maybe there's something to it, although it sounded ridiculous. What's the first thing I told you is it sounds ridiculous.
He's a very large human being and can be very intimidating to people in an organization that are going to be a part of those decisions. That's the quote, Armin.
If I was trying to disagree, and let's say there was an issue with a guy like that and I would disagree with him and try and reason with them or have a discussion, and he just wanted to stand up and put his chest, okay, then it's just stupid. You're going to try and physically intimidate me. I don't think that's what Vrabel's doing. I don't know though. Maybe that's how some people feel, and maybe that's them being soft. But maybe there's something to that. It's like this guy doesn't even want to try and listen to new ideas or work.
That's why I said the problem with it's the context. Why is his size a problem? Is his size the problem because when he talks to you, he close talks and you have to stare straight up? Could you imagine close talking with Vrabel standing at 6'4", 260 pounds? Right. He comes up to you, starts close talking. He's immediately just looking straight down at you.
And
I don't think that's the case.
But that might be a preconceived bias too by other people, by just saying this guy's big, he's scary. Well, that's all preconceived bias too. Maybe you're not really giving him a chance because of the way he looks or the way you think he should act and the way he's really. So like you said, John, until we have context, it's really hard to know how much.
Who gets a head coaching job in the NFL first, Vrabel or Belichick?
Well, my guess is Vrabel. I don't know about you, Billy.
I just can't believe this. I can't believe Bill's can't get a job. It blows my mind.
I'm with you.
Unless he gets completely, I heard Dan Patrick calling it and Ross Tucker calling it a media cleanse this year of Belichick being on television, making us all like him. I think it's Vrabel because he's got multiple years to wait. But damn, no, Bill's getting a job next year. Somebody is going to convince themselves that Bill Belichick can lead their team next year.
I don't know. I think it's Vrabel, and I think it's even hard for Vrabel because now he's in his 50. Listen, the NFL is changing, and even 50s feels old now. If you're not a guy who's been in a position for 13 or 14 years with an organization, and you're looking, for another job at 55, 56. Man, it's going to be difficult. Bill Belichick 3 years ago at 69, coming off of some Super Bowl appearances, would have been very employable.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's 72. He's had 3 trash teams. Tom Brady is gone, right? People are saying, no, maybe not. And we definitely don't need old school. We need young school. We got young kids coming out of college. I think it's going to be hard for both of them, to tell you the truth.
Well, and one of the youngest old guys in pro football couldn't even get an interview this year. That's Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll's had some success. He couldn't even get an interview this year. So maybe both of them will be struggling. That could be a really good special for him at Potawatomi.
The man can't miss. Time now for Coons Can't Miss. Presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet big. Bet bull.
Armin told us yesterday all the Nooners are always down at Potawatomi, so I don't need to tell you, but for the Nooners that have not made your way down there, it's a Nooner convention nearly every single day down at the Sportsbook. The old Fire Pit Sports Bar and Grill, 30 big screens, full bar of food and beverage service, and plenty of seating for all the Nooners. And yet, Armin says there's still more room to be had. There's still more space to take up. There's still more food and drinks at the old Fire Pit Sports Grill for the Nooners to take advantage of. And you can go down there and you don't even have to stay. If you just want to walk in, take a look around, hit up the kiosk. They got over 70 of them, second, third level, just off the skywalk. Make your way in, place a bet, get on out of there. Or get on out of there, head upstairs to Rock and Brews and have yourself a couple beers while you watch. You don't have to sit at the sports book, but I suggest you do because it's rocking every time. All right, yesterday, we'll go back before we go forward. I picked the Charlotte Hornets because they had a little bit of an axe to grind with LeBron and his comments about all the jury, and you don't need that. And then Charlotte goes and posts a video of all their players flashing their really nice jewelry from Jacob the Jeweler and everywhere else that they get it. So I knew instantly the Charlotte Hornets, they're going to have some inspiration to go in this game to say, hey, just because we rock the jewelry doesn't mean we can't play ball. They did not win, but they covered because they were catching 11.5. That was an easy smash. I think they lost by 6.
Yeah.
Covered that one with ease, Armin. Not a bad night for Coon Dog on Coons Can't Miss.
Not a bad night indeed. They did, John. So, let's see if you can get a streak together. It's been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. Let's try and break that and get 2 in a row, John, which would get, I don't want to say it.
Nah, you jinxed me.
I didn't say it.
And I really wanted to go Butler catching 15.5 tonight. You said they're scrappy, Armin. They've been playing scrappy.
They are
in
top
the Big
50
East.
in the
But
UConn.
Listen, is UConn better this year than what they were last year?
I think now that they got their big guy back, Klingon, I think they are going to be.
Wait, Klingon.
What's it? What's his name? I always mess it up.
Something like that.
Klingon. That's from Star Trek.
Yeah, well, that is. But what's his? Yeah, Alex. Is that what or Caravan? I'm mixing it up. Whatever it is, the big guy
is the shooter, I believe, is who you're thinking of. The big guy is
Caravan. Sorry.
They have a Klingon and a Caravan playing for UConn right now.
Guy, yeah. They got the big guy back. Anyway, I think they could be better. I think we could finally see a repeat champion. It's very hard to do, obviously, in this day and age in college basketball. I think it could happen. They're playing.
Well, they don't care about the national championship. It's all regular season championships and Big East tournaments. That's what we've heard. Right?
So well, if that's what they care about, then they were losers last year when Marquette beat them out of both Big East championships.
You're thinking of Donovan Klingon.
Thank you very much.
7'2".
That's the big guy I'm thinking of. Yeah. Donovan Klingon. Yeah, Klingon.
So they have a Caravan and a Klingon.
Caravan is the 6'8" shooter.
I get those guys mixed up. So, yeah, it's the big guy, Klingon, and 7'2". And they're much better now they got him back. Listen, they're a good team. They're obviously
15.5 points, though, playing it in Connecticut.
Yeah, that's a big threshold. I mean, Butler's a top 50 Ken Pom team. They're tougher now with Tadmon than people realize. I think they could be scrappy. Butler's right on the bubble right now. We're already starting to talk bubble here. So I think they could play him tough for sure and keep that number under
I think it's a perfect time to start bubble. The selection Sunday is, 6 weeks away?
Selection Sunday. Yeah, you're right. So
5.5. 5 3/4
for sure. I think
for splitting hairs here.
I think they could cover it in Hartford.
You
it's
don't
tougher,
sound
but
you don't sound too optimistic about that. How about this low over under of 129.5 all the way on the West Coast, which is where we like to go here midweek. It's working for us like the Maction did during the football season. St. Mary's, huge favorite, 21.5 point favorites, but the over under 129.5. You got to think St. Mary's gets themselves. What's our season average for point scoring? I'm guessing 76.
They don't have a point average, but they are top 30 in adjusted offensive efficiency. Your issue with St. Mary's, John, the over, is they are one of the slowest tempo teams in the nation. So their adjusted tempo is
But if they're efficient,
358, but they're efficient. So
what's Pacific's adjusted efficiency?
good question. Let's check that out. Pacific likes to get out a little bit faster and run. They're kind of in the top third, 135th out of 362. So I would say a little higher than halfway.
Do you like the over under, or do you like Butler better?
I'll be honest with you. I like the over under in this game. I think
then I'm taking Butler. I'm
West.
taking Butler plus 15.5 points
There we
then
go.
at
Fade
UConn.
Armin,
That's
fade
what I'm
Armin.
doing. They're scrappy. The Big East is a mess every single night. It gets muddied. I'm not even looking at that over under. I'm taking 15.5 points with Butler at UConn tonight.
All right, John, you're locked in. Butler plus 15.5. Fade Armin.
That's a good goal.
Yeah.
That's a good way to go and just live. Is just fade Armin and enjoy a lot more cash in your pocket over at Potawatomi Sportsbook. We got to take a time out. We're back right after this. Hour number 3 of 9 to noon. Back half features one part of NBA All-Star Weekend that the NFL could never adopt. We'll explain next on the game.
You wanna be fast, see the cash, play around a weak staff, get it. It was a beautiful day. Sun beat down. I had the radio on.
Over the break, listening to new Packers linebacker coach Anthony Campanelli and a video that compilation of videos from him on Hard Knocks and team meetings and special teams meetings. New linebackers coach. Lot of work. And if it's taken as long as it does to edit a spot, it's going to take probably till Friday for us to have that one ready to go. He's firing him up. He's firing himself up too. But the essence of the conversation is you pursue like no other. I think my favorite one is ass whooping. It translates all over the world. You see somebody getting it whooped up on, you can figure out that that's happening in Greece, in Spain, in Switzerland, in Asia, wherever it is. You see somebody getting it whooped, you know what's happening. That it doesn't change. So I love it. I think there's a lot of fans that are going to be very, very dialed on in. We already have our guy Ken in the Falls saying he's going to bring in that hard-nosed coaching that they need. Building chemistry as these guys align with their leaders. I love these offseason moves by the Packers on defense. Finding some of those guys that are just going to be a little bit more, well, dare I say, Dan Campbell-esque. I think that's going to be the interesting one.
6'1", 222. So just, he hit the.
Is he big enough? Is he not
that's
big enough?
middleweight. That's middleweight, not heavyweight. That's good. Not going to intimidate the guys. Listening to that speech, if he was 6'4", I could understand why they'd be afraid of him.
Yeah, you listen to that, and there's going to be many people that are a little bit concerned because he is bringing a lot of heat, a lot of passion, and more than anything, I thought he brought a pretty solid linebacker unit there in Miami. Now, they have some nice players there when you're talking about Jerome Baker, but he was in and out of the lineup throughout the year this year. Riley played significant snaps for them throughout the year. I thought he played well, but it's also one of those where you're not going to be able to know in full until Packers players, I think, are getting a sense. Got some untapped potential. That guy can't untap it, then maybe it's not going to happen. But there is a fire and an intensity that it does sound a little bit different than what we heard from Joe Barry, who this guy was the linebackers coach for the Miami Dolphins. Joe Barry, the new defense linebackers coach for the Miami Dolphins. So just swap that thing on out.
No, we're just going to trade. Fair trade. One for one. You guys get Joe Barry, we get Campanelli. Here we go.
I think most Packer fans would take that trade. Is that fair to say? Especially if they hear those speeches and stuff like that. There's a lot of Packer fans that wanted a change from Joe Barry. So I'm sure they'll be happy to take that trade. So we'll wait and see if it works out. But I think it's got to excite you a little bit when you hear that stuff. I know we can't play it on the air. You can find it online pretty easily.
At the game MKE at Bill Schmid Radio. I retweeted it as well from both accounts. So you can find it there. It's available, and you can follow John at Coon J30 and Armin's at Armin. Sorry, and you know the name, you know the handle. That thing's going to be circulating around the internet all day, all night, probably all off season long, because we want to be able to grab anything you have. And that's more than we know from really Jeff Hafley, right? Like we heard him with in the interview with Adam, the mountain of a man, Brenneman. And that was the little bit that we've heard from what Jeff Hafley's bringing to the party. So it's interesting to be able to get, maybe there's a common theme here of trying to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more intense throughout it with some of the youthful coaches that they're bringing on in. All right. We're bringing the music on in. So I got to take a quick time out, and I'll tell you about what the NBA is trying to implement that NFL players could never deal with. And our quick trip takeaways of the day coming up right after this on the game. Kuhn on the game. One name synonymous with fantastic frozen pizza. It's Palermo's, made right here in Wisconsin for almost 60 years. From their new and improved flavors, Rising Crust pizzas, guilt-free Primo Thin pies. Find them in your grocer's frozen food aisle. Palermo's flavor is our family's business. We've been all about business here today. Now, we did have some fun joking about what's the easiest way to get, the answer that you want from your significant other. Send the kid in to ask the difficult questions. Are you or are you not being tracked by your entire family every day of the week and twice on Sundays? Is Mike Vrabel too big to be a head coach? I mean, this is good stuff, let alone, the important things like the Packers staff changes. But it's rolled here on a Tuesday. We've been going up with a lot of interesting stuff, and this one is about as interesting as it can get. The NBA has decided that for NBA All-Star Saturday night, now the All-Star game will be held in Indianapolis this year. That is where the NBA will be traveling. Still would be nice if they made it to Milwaukee here after we built that new stadium.
Right.
Kind of thought that was part of the deal. It's almost 10 years old, but we're still waiting.
Still waiting, Adam Silver.
NBA, we're here. We're here for you. Whenever you guys want to come and have the All-Star game here, which we kind of thought was a deal, but apparently it's not. So the NBA unveils a state-of-the-art LED court for all-star events taking place at Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, this will be, once again, for Saturday night going through. It'll be the skills competition. There's a 3-point shooting matchup between Sabrina Ionescu and Stephen Curry, which is going to be awesome. Watching maybe the best female shooter and the best male shooter of all time go duke it on out. But, John, you brought up a great point. As the NBA wants us to all know that gives us a little bit more range into what they can do as far as interactive graphics, reactionary graphics that happen on the floor, changing floor designs, color designs for the different event. And there's always a saying that this is why we can't have nice things. I don't think this would fly in football world.
I mean, guys would be trying to break the floor, trying to break the court, dunking and landing as hard as they possibly could. There's no way this thing will work in the NFL. Remember when they put that big Jumbotron down there in Dallas?
Oh yeah, of course.
First game, punters trying to hit
it.
Let's see if we can hit it. Let's see what happens if we hit this thing. And they did.
Right.
And they did, and they hit it. I mean, just you give players a reason to be goofy in a moment like that, especially with a tricked out light up court. I'm assuming the top layer of that court is glass.
That is true. The court, developed by German company ASB Glass Floor, has been used in events by FIBA, the sports governing body. FIBA approved the usage of the LED floor at top tier competitions in 2022. The league did not reveal the costs of the court, other than it was more expensive than hardwood. I think we all could have guessed that one.
Oh, good figure.
My first thought was, will the ball react the same way, bouncing wise, obviously on that surface in the hardwood, but they do play with different surfaces in basketball. That all sports surface that they had in some high schools. You ever see that? Or some schools, and they played volleyball on that too, that all sports surface. So I guess if they have these guys that engineer it and they bring in the German engineers, I'm sure they've already tested
that. German engineering serious. Just ask, Mercedes or something. The court is actually 2 layers of laminated safety glass, each 5 millimeters thick. The NBA said the surface is opaque, and all the designs will be provided by the LED panels. The court will have a different look for each event, and part of what will be displayed are real-time game stats, replays, video content, and even more tracking animations. Now, wow, the tracking animations were part of the reason why I was not interested in what we had going on with Live Golf this weekend. I tried to tap on in with it. They got so much stuff going on the green that I couldn't even see the ball. Now, this is an old man take here. I would like to see where the ball is being putt if I can get it if it's going to go into the cup. Like all the different lights and cameras that were going on Live, I couldn't see where the ball was. I didn't even know. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, it's good. Okay, sweet. Sounds good. Maybe I can see it on a replay here. I just wonder how much of this is going to be flashing in front of us, and all the stats and info that I'm going to be looking at, I don't even know where the ball's at.
Billy, back in the day, it was a big ploy for recruiting out in Oregon, the number of different uniforms that they could have for players. That was a huge recruiting tool because they had Nike, so they could constantly be changing their uniforms, their helmets, everything. We're gonna have a different uniform for every game because it's gonna be that's what appealed to the younger players that were coming out of high school, that were going into college. They wanted to be swaggy. They wanted all the different uniforms, and it was cool. That's what's happening with the courts now, man. You saw the in-season tournament. You saw how
crazy courts.
I couldn't stand those courts, but we're old. It's not for us. It's for the young guys that are playing on them and for the young guys that are watching them. That's what it's for. This court with all these graphics and things like that, that's here to stay. That stuff's not changing. Every time they can figure out a new way to do it. Now, does it get so distracting that the guys on the court can't stand it? That would be the one thing that would change it. Is it so blinky and lit up that the guys on the court are like, man, this is messing with my eyes here? That would be the one thing that would change it, but not us. No, they don't care.
Yeah, it feels like you're playing like a Dave and Buster's basketball, not like the real basketball, but that would be
very
the question.
NBA Jam like.
Right, Jam like. There have been some technologies they've gone to enhance the viewing experience for TV that haven't worked. Like I remember Fox Tracks, which was the puck tracker for hockey games on Fox in the 90s.
Yeah, that was tough.
It was like a streak. It didn't really work, but the issue there was TV audiences didn't connect well with hockey because they couldn't see the puck. We'll see how this looks on TV. I think that'll be the ultimate barometer for how people react to it.
Well, and they are only going to use it for the skills competition going up on the 17th, the celebrity game on the 16th. If you're really that interested in the celebrity game, then you're going to be interested in it because it's the celebrity game. I mean, like it's as funny as you possibly can imagine.
Funny.
It is. I always enjoy it, but I like watching the Miz try to shoot a half quarter to see if they can win. So my entertainment value is a little bit different, a little bit, easier to please. The NBA game itself, the All-Star game will remain on a wooden court. So Kyrie Irving, don't worry. We're not using a floor from the 80s. You'll be on okay
he didn't like
for
that.
This one.
He didn't like that at the Mecca, did he? Or it's the arena? No. So, yeah, he did complain. He thought that at least.
Yeah. You can tell this court's pretty old. I mean, like, I don't know if it's going to be safe or not for us. The Quick Trip take of the day brought to you by Quick Trip. Need something for dinner tonight? Don't cook. Stop by your local Quick Trip. Pick up something freshly prepared. Absolutely delicious. Their take-home meals are always fresh, never frozen. You might even find
and go.
Sorry, it's just
a lot of great things such as spaghetti and meatballs.
Spaghetti, chicken Alfredo, potatoes, salad. He likes to stick to what he knows.
Sometimes the computer's just got to think about it, So,
well, let's be honest.
I think you're too big, Billy. You intimidated the computer.
Yes. I got it a little scared. Got him a little bit scared. I think that's exactly what it was. Well, listen, I'll try to be better tomorrow. I'll try to be less intimidating tomorrow. Maybe I'll try to lose some weight. Maybe that'll make the computer work throughout it. For John Kuhn, Armin Sari, and I'm Billy Schmid. We'll try to be better on Wednesday. It's 9 to noon on the game.
I like pop. Bring over suckers, cause all of them I'll stop. Won't neglect, but I won't protect. All of my